Hey, what's up? This is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, the Who's Ready for Some Fighting Words. In this video, I want to talk about Gervonta Tank Davis and basically versus everybody. I'm going to let you know right now, this is going to be a Pac-inspired video, okay? Because Tank is on some hit-em-up type stuff. So we're going to rock like that in this video. Really quick, if you like the videos, please take the chance right now. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And please tell a friend, circulate the videos, get it out there. Let everybody know that Fighting Words is here and I'm legit, okay? Let's jump into this. So Tank has been just on a rampage and anybody and everybody can get it. I kind of want to say it started with when Ryan Garcia beat Devin Haney. And he's like, hey, we can be friends now. You can get my number now. We can hang out at the club. Like, I didn't like you before, but since you got rid of the Haneys, you know, you beat Devin Haney. You're all right in my book. We can be friends. And that's also something that's kind of funny. Like an alliance that came out of nowhere. Who would ever think Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia would be like best bros or something like that? Like they would be like the two guys who would take on the rest of the world. It's Gervonta Tank Davis and the Haneys have been going back and forth for a very, very long time. And it all spews back to the infamous sparring where, you know, Tank almost got rid of Devin Haney in the ring. However, I look at that as, number one, that was years ago. Number two, Devin Haney was a kid and you were a grown man. Now, so it doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. Not to mention it's just sparring. I don't care who you are. If you've been in the ring, for any considerable amount of time, you've been hit hard, you've been stunned, you've been dropped, you've been made to bleed. You know, you've gone home with a fat lip or a fat eye. Like that's nothing uncommon. So why all these sparring wars are coming out, I have no clue. And to be quite frank, just because you can beat somebody in sparring doesn't necessarily mean you can beat them under the big lights. And that's where Floyd Mayweather and Bill Haney are going back and forth. You know, Bill's like, well, you know, my son, he beat you up in sparring. And he's like, yeah, that's sparring. Listen, everybody, if you're in the gym, that's where you should get beat up, in sparring. You don't want to get beat up on the night of. You should get beat up in sparring. That's where you should get beat up. That's where it's okay to get beat up. That's where it's okay to learn. Learn your craft, master your craft. It's okay. In sparring, that's where it should happen, because you don't want it to happen in the actual ring, in the actual fight, if you're actually getting paid for it, if you're actually in the amateurs. So yeah, that's where you should get beat up. There's nothing wrong getting beat up in sparring. Nothing wrong at all. I mean, it happens to everybody. I don't care who you are. Everybody's been dropped. I don't care who you are. Everybody's felt a liver shot. I don't care who you are. If you've never been beat up in sparring, I think you're lying. That's that. So it spewed from that. And then it just continued to spiral. You know, Devin got more notoriety. You know, he got all the belts and he's just like, well, I'm better than Tank and I want the Tank fight. And Tank's like, well, I don't necessarily need you. I don't need you. Like, you might need me. You need me to solidify yourself. However, I'm solidified within myself. My popularity and my marketing abilities and powers show that I don't need you. And like I said, it's just pretty much been from then on out, because Devin Haney's been seeking the Gervonta Tank Davis fight, and Tank wasn't giving it to him, basically. And rightfully so for Devin. He should want to seek out who he's considering the best guy, so I'm not knocking that. Then you have Floyd Mayweather, his old promoter. Him and Tank get into it, in which case he's like, you got sugar in the tank. And he's like, well, you're stuck in Dubai and you can't get out. You got outstanding debts. Then he's like, well, and I had relations with your daughter. How about that? It's like dropping bombs all over the place. Then I got relations with your daughter. Now what? You know, then he says, when I see Floyd, I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to knock him out when I see him. Yeah, okay. Well, the problem with that is Floyd Mayweather is a fighter as well. And I don't think you're just going to walk up to him and punch him in the face. And he's just going to stand there and allow that to happen. But it's great banter, and I love it back and forth. And I've already made a fantasy fight for this, so I'm going to drop a link up here. So check that out. I think it's pretty interesting, just to match the two guys side by side. But that's Tank versus Floyd, his ex-promoter. And he's really making it his thing to say, hey, you know, I'm not promoted by him anymore. And now he's even gone as far as saying, I've exceeded him. Look at where I am at my age and look at where he was when he was my age. I've exceeded him. I'm only going to shoot up higher and higher. While you look at him, he's only gotten this far. Well, Floyd Mayweather's gotten pretty far. I would probably say he's definitely off of Earth, past the moon, and somewhere out in the far stratosphere. That's what I would say. But nonetheless, the drama continues and the drama and the saga moves on. We also have, out of nowhere, and I really mean out of nowhere, I think this spews from, there was a video dropped by Floyd Mayweather, in which case it was Shakur Stevenson basically saying, hey, I'm tired of doing the back and forth and all the talking. Can we fight? If you say you're the guy, and can we fight? And we'll find out who the guy is in our division. Let's fight. Tank really not entertaining that, but it was Floyd who dropped it. And I think, had something, had something to do with it. Okay, I think Floyd is dropping things all over the place, to be quite frank. With the Devin Haney spar, everything. Like, he put it in Ryan Garcia's hands. Knowing how reckless and how loud and how much of a snitch Ryan Garcia is, he'll not only show it and then say who gave it to him. He's the worst kind of snitch. 6'9" ain't got nothing on Ryan Garcia. So, that the epitome of a snitch. But, now, when it comes to Claressa Shields, she was just coming to her friend's aid, her brother's aid. Shakur Stevenson and Claressa Shields are like this. They're like brother and sister. And she's just coming to her brother's aid and like, hey, let's make this fight happen. But on top of that, she did speak on the Ryan Garcia and the Devin Haney fight. In which case, Tank jumped in on that. And he's calling her everything from a horse face to and it's just like, where did this come from? And it's just, clearly it's been something that's been brewing. I mean, we do have lines and we do have camps and we do have our alliances and our friends. And when you talk about Shakur Stevenson, it doesn't have to be, expressed that Claressa Shields, that's her brother and she's his sister. And she's going to come charging for him. And sure enough, that's what happened. And now there's a whole beef with Claressa Shields, and there's a whole beef with Gervonta Tank Davis. Like I said, he's taking on all challengers. Doesn't matter the size, it doesn't matter the weight class, it doesn't matter if you're male, it doesn't matter if you're female, it doesn't matter what. If you get in his way, and right now he's back, he's full steam ahead. He said, in his press conference with Frank Martin, he said, well, I've been silent for a long time, and I wasn't, really able to do anything or say anything. So he's like, now that I'm free to just talk, here I am. Here I am. And then he also said, Frank Martin said in the press conference, well, I thought you don't tweet. And he's like, well, I do when I'm in camp. Like, I got nothing better to do. I train all day and I tweet all night. I got nothing better to do. I'm in camp. So what else am I supposed to do? I guess he's not a video game type guy. Now, interestingly, talking about Frank Martin, we have that Gervonta Tank Davis wants to have a street fight with Earl Spence out of nowhere, but again, he's with Earl Spence is, promoting Frank Martin. And obviously you're on the opposite side. You're on the opposing team. You know what? To be funny, when he said it at first, I'm like, ha, ha, ha. Now I'm like, you know what? I might even give Tank the advantage in the fight. I mean, I just recently seen an interview with Earl Spence, and the way he's slurring his words, he's always been a very laid back, extremely laid back individual. But he's even more laid back after the loss to Bud Crawford. And I'm like, you know what? Tank is more active. He's in better shape. If they were to get into let's just say if they were to run into each other in Vegas or someplace, I'd probably put my money on Tank, to be honest with you. Because we're not talking about an actual sanctioned 12-round bout. We're just talking about a street fight. I right now, if they were to actually physically just run into each other, I think I would have to put my money on Gervonta Tank Davis. He's definitely in better shape. He's definitely been more active, and he hasn't suffered any damage. You look at Earl Spence. I don't know exactly who the interviewer was, but he didn't look 100%. or he didn't sound 100%. He just sounded really slow. He was cognizant, but he was really slow, and the slur really bothered me. And I'm like, man, if you get that guy right now in a street fight with Tank, I might actually have to put back Tank and put my money on Tank. He's already faster and he's in better shape. He didn't take a beating. He hasn't taken a beating. And if he has, he's had competitive fights, but he hasn't taken a beating. And he's been hit hard, but he hasn't taken a beating. Earl took a beating and got up and took more of a beating and got up and took more of a beating until it was stopped from him getting a beating. I think I would have to go with Gervonta Tank Davis on this. And lastly, Eddie Hearn. Tank said, listen, he's a snake. He was going to let Conor Benn take on Chris Eubank Jr., knowing that he failed the drug test. And he's like, you can't trust anything that comes out of this man's mouth, and he'll do anything for $1. You can't trust him. And all right, if you watch my channel for any considerable amount of time, you know that I'm a supporter of Eddie Hearn. I respect Eddie Hearn. And I think Eddie Hearn is one of the few people who actually wants to see real competitive fights. However, I have to agree with Tank on this one. I have to agree with him. Eddie was pushing for the fight to continue, for Conor Benn to continue with the fight with Chris Eubank Jr. And that would have been very bad for Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, he's already depleted. He was bony as a skeleton. And, you're juiced up on something. And they can say whatever they want about Conor, but I have my own suspicions. I've had suspicions. But, yes, we grow as fighters. But Conor Benn didn't look like that 5 years ago. I'll leave it at that.
Is it waking up at 5 a.m. to run them extra miles?
He certainly didn't have that type of power. 4,300 meters. So I'll leave it at that. But Tank's like, he's a snake and you can't trust this guy. You can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth. If he sends you a contract, it's not a real contract. He said if you talk money with him, he'll try to lowball you. So he's just a snake. So there you have it. I mean, Tank is going at everybody. And I'm pretty sure this is going to, evolve into something else. But I'm so interested how Tank and Ryan Garcia have bonded together. They're like friends now, through this adversity. It's like, oh, you hate the Haney? Yeah, let's go out for drinks. That's all it took. You could have got my number then if you would have told me you hated Bill Haney and you hated Devin Haney. We could have gone out and hung out if you would have just simply said that back then when I beat you. So... And on top of that, let me just lastly say this. He mentioned the fight with Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. He was like, well, if you look at the fight, he looked like a sloppier version of the Ryan that fought me. He said he was just bigger. And he said he was throwing the same punch. It's the same hook. The only difference was I saw it, I blocked it, and I nullified it, and I capitalized on it. Devin didn't do any of that. But he's like, it's the same fighter. He's just bigger. He said he was bigger and sloppier. That's all and that's what he said. And I'm going to make that a side video. But those are my thoughts.